One of the reasons I think these mid-size trucks have done so well is because every other truck is getting bigger. Half tons are getting bigger, heavy duties are getting bigger. So these mid-size trucks offer a more manageable size and, quite frankly, enough tow rating and payload to handle just about anything that most people do. Now, I also think that mid-size trucks are perfect for the power sports enthusiast, and that's what we're going to test out today. So first, let me go load up. Yeah, that's it right there. Today we have to return that Kawasaki Mule, so let's see how this GMC Canyon Denali diesel does at towing. So as part of our towing test today, we're going to do a quick fuel economy test, and we don't have too far to go, but still I figure it's worth it to see how much diesel this thing burns with that trailer and mule back there. Okay, we're all fueled up, we're just taking off here. So let's see how this diesel feels. Here's the first acceleration. This little Duramax feels really nice, you know. I think the biggest difference in this truck between the diesel and the gas engine is the diesel barely sounds like it's doing anything. It just never really has to rev up too high to get to the power. Of course, it's a diesel, so it makes peak torque at low RPM. So it's just, you know, it makes towing seem so effortless. Now, behind me I have a Kawasaki Mule Pro FXR, and it probably weighs a hair under 1,800 pounds. At least that's what Kawasaki says. So when you add that and you add the trailer on, we're at about 3,500 pounds. And that's sort of the point I'm trying to make. I feel like most power sports enthusiasts, if you're towing a jet ski or a side-by-side or an ATV, usually you're between the 3,000 to 5,000 pound range. I could even have another mule on here and this truck would still be okay to tow it. And that's why I honestly think that if power sports is your main use for your truck, a midsize can serve you really well. The fuel economy advantage to getting a smaller truck is obvious. Even the gas models are going to save you fuel, but if you do spring for this diesel, it should really be efficient, and I'll let you know exactly how efficient when we get to the other end and we work out the numbers ourselves. So with the diesel and the 342 rear end, which is the only one you can get, this Canyon is rated to pull 7,700 pounds. Now pushing it right to that limit, yeah, it might not feel great, but from anywhere from 5,000 pounds down, this truck is going to tow it just fine. And it does have a few features which are towing specific. First of all, there is an exhaust brake in this truck, so if you really are loading it up, you can switch that on, and it just helps give you nice down or back pressure as you're slowing down. The second your foot comes off the gas, you hear that exhaust brake kick in, and it definitely helps you to slow down. And the exhaust brake is tied in with the tow haul mode, so you turn them both on at the same time using one of these toggle switches. Another seriously appreciated towing feature here is the integrated trailer brake controller. Yes, GM just puts the trailer brake controller in here for you, so you don't have to worry about an aftermarket unit, and that's a pretty big deal, you know. Again, even with this 3,500 pounds on here today, I can feel the trailer brakes working, and I don't have them set up very high, but just enough that they're helping this truck, so if I did have to stop suddenly in an emergency, I would have that help from my trailer brakes. And it's just nice not to have to worry about installing a unit yourself. It never is that easy, and it always usually sticks out and jams into your knee. You'll never get a nicer, cleaner solution than an integrated brake controller, and I appreciate GM for putting them into its smallest trucks. From a pure towing perspective, when should you switch into a half ton? Well, of course, it's all subjective, right? It depends how you want the truck to feel. If you were towing this with a half ton, you would barely feel it at all. Now, my general rule of thumb is about 5,000 pounds. Around 5,000 pounds, you might want to think about getting a half ton. And then if you're at 7,000 pounds and up and you're doing that regularly, yeah, I would definitely recommend a half ton. The other advantage to a half ton over a midsize for a power sports enthusiast is just going to be straight up rear seat space and storage. When looking at rear seat storage here, yeah, you're going to have to choose between bringing all your gear or bringing your buddies. Now, there is enough leg room here for a full-size adult to sit comfortably, but if you get two people back here, yeah, you're really not going to fit much gear. Now, luckily, of course, this is a pickup truck, so it has a bed. On this model, it's a 5.5-foot bed. The issue here, though, is no tonneau cover. So if you do get a truck like this, definitely get a tonneau cover because you need a place to store your gear that's out of the elements, possibly even lockable, and still retain all your back seat space. Now the seats here can fold up. You can see it's a 60-40 split, but it does have this big plastic barrier here that supports the seat, so you have some storage space down in here, but this thing kind of gets in the way, especially if you have big bags. So how are the sight lines in this truck? Well, the mirrors are a little small. Now luckily I just have the flat deck trailer with the side-by-side on it, so technically I would be legal because I can see behind that side-by-side and see all the way to the back of the trailer. But if I did have a big enclosed trailer, I would need aftermarket mirrors. On the driver's side, you do get a small convex mirror, and that does help quite a bit just to make sure you can see your blind spots in your mirrors. But it is true that if you're getting a big enclosed trailer, you're gonna need different mirrors. Now, if you did go half ton, you could order optional towing mirrors right from the factory. That's not a choice on this small truck, so that's one more thing to consider. This little Duramax makes just over 180 horsepower, but it makes 369 pound-feet of torque, which is pretty monstrous. And that is what allows the engine to do all of its hard work without actually seeming like it's doing hard work. It just stays nice and low in the rev range. Power off the line is immediate and feels pretty robust. You know, you feel that torque come on to get the load moving. And then when you're at speed, that's probably where the truck struggles the most, sort of in the mid-range. When you're kind of cruising and then you put your foot deep into it, it does downshift, but there's not a ton of power there. It is, you know, noticeable, that torque, when you're taking off, but once you're at speed, let's say you're, you know, going 40 miles an hour and you want to climb up to 55 or 60, that's kind of the weakest area of this engine. The transmission reacts fairly quickly. It does recognize your want for power and it does downshift pretty quickly, but even still, that mid-range is where a little more power would be nice. And I really like the brakes here. With the tow haul mode on, you touch the brake and the truck kind of aggressively downshifts, but I gotta say that I really like it. Some trucks really let you use the brakes. This truck seems to be doing everything it can to avoid having me use the brakes. It downshifts right away. I have the exhaust brake going, so it's giving extra back pressure. Slowing down in this little truck is really nice and really well handled by the powertrain. So this Canyon I'm in right here is a Canyon Denali, and I have to say that I like the Denali package a bit better from the outside than I do from the inside. So the exterior styling, you get some nice chrome accents, you get the Denali badges, but then you get those unique wheels, and I really like these wheels. I think they look good. Now, here's the trouble with the inside. You just don't get that much. You get a Denali badge on the steering wheel. I get Denali stitching up here in the headrests. And then I get this wood. There's one wood panel on each door and this fake wood panel down here in the center. And that's about it. There's really not a lot in here to change this truck up. Oh, I guess also accent stitching in the seats, but I don't know. To me, Denali should be a cut above the rest. And this doesn't really feel all that much nicer than a standard Canyon. So if it was my money, I'd probably still pony up for the SLT, but I don't think I would go all the way up to Denali. And from a pure performance perspective, you're not getting anything out of this Denali you don't get out of other Canyons. It's the same rear end, same engine, same transmission, same tow rating, all that stuff is the same. So if you really care about some chrome and a few wood accents, then I guess go ahead and spend the money. But yeah, to me, Denali in the Canyon is kind of not worth it. So just for the sake of the fuel economy test, let me tell you about my drive here a little bit today too. So there won't be any highway driving. It's all kind of secondary roads today. So my speeds are going to hover between 80 and 100 kilometers an hour. So it's not like that 401 test I did the other day. But still, this is a pretty good representation of just clear cruising fuel economy. Overall comfort in the Canyon is pretty good as well. My one gripe is that the seat cushions on the bottom, they could be a little longer. They could give you a little more leg support, get a little closer to my knee, but it hasn't really been that big a deal. And these seats are nice and comfortable. They're kind of lightly bolstered, so they do kind of grab onto you. The leather is nice. Yeah, I have no complaints at all about the comfort in this thing. I could do a lot of hours in this seat behind this wheel. It's worth mentioning now as well that this is the towing champ in the midsize segment. This Canyon or Colorado diesel has the highest tow rating of any midsize truck at 7,700 pounds. Okay, so now we are coming into a city, so there's going to be some city driving involved here as well, and that will of course affect the fuel economy, but for the most part it's all been like this, just open cruising right around 95 kilometers an hour, and so far this truck is burning 13.3 liters per 100 kilometers, which is actually a pretty big jump from its ratings and from that rating we got the other day when we did an empty fuel economy test when the truck ran just 8 liters per 100. So you know what, adding this 3,500 pounds on, at least so far, it looks like it's going to make a pretty big dent in the fuel economy. Now we probably still have another 20 kilometers to go, so I'll let you know what it is at the end. So while I know most power sports destinations are going to take you to sort of wide open spaces and empty roads, driving down here in the city, it also helps me appreciate the size of this truck. And you know, it's not the length difference or anything compared to a half-ton, it's the width. This truck is a few inches skinnier than one of those big half-tons, and on city streets, yeah, you notice it, you know, and it makes things just a little easier. It makes it a little nicer to deal with in tight situations. The other important consideration with width is what can fit in the bed. Now, the Canyon has a width between the wheel wells of 44.4 inches, whereas a 2018 Chevy Silverado has a width of 51 inches between those wheel wells. Okay, you guys, we just pulled into the gas station here, so let's check it out. We did a total of 82.5 kilometers. And our fuel mileage, according to the truck, is 13.7 liters per 100, which is not too bad, but it's also not great considering how good this diesel is when it's empty. Now, I'm sure that's probably better than what a half-ton would have done, especially with a big V8 or even a turbocharged V6. But yeah, 13.7 in this little midsize with this load on. I'm a little surprised it's that high, to be honest. Now, I'll also show you the US units here. So we go over to options, go US, back to info, and there you go. So that was 51.2 miles and 17.2 miles per gallon. And now we're gonna do the math ourselves and see how we did. So let's do the math real quickly ourselves. So we used 10.76 liters of diesel and we went 82.5 kilometers, which means you do 10.76 divided by the distance, which is 82.5, multiplied by 100 to move the decimal, and we get an even 13 liters per 100 kilometers. So just a little bit better than what the computer said. So there you go. I really do believe that a mid-sized truck like this GMC Canyon is just perfect for the power sports enthusiast, and the fact that it's going to save you a few bucks compared to a big half-ton, well, that just means more money to spend on machines. And come back here for the latest news, views, and real-world reviews. See ya.